Does it concern you that your daughter has just run away from home?
That's a loaded question.
Come down and read this.
Welcome to episode 80 of the Backlot 605 podcast, the premier South Dakota movie podcast. I am one of your hosts. I am Casey Kelderman. Join with me on the Zooms is my co-host, Brian Mensing.
How's it going?
Great. Looks like Brian is at summer camp right now.
Yeah. It kind of looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Is that the closest thing you've ever been to an actual summer camp?
Yes.
Or he's drowning in the water. It kind of looks like you're drowning in the water. Anyway, we are joined on this podcast by my Killer Countdown co-host and the co-host of the Criterion Break with Andy and Blake. It is Blake Ginnethan.
Hello. How are you guys?
What's up, Blake?
I'm
doing good.
I'm just chilling, man. Just eventful evening over here at my house.
Yeah, you had we're a little worried with our Zoom call because your wife had a Zoom call that was hacked. We're hoping no one hacks ours. If anyone does, it better be Bill Murray. And that's it. I will accept no one else.
Pretty sure it won't be Bill.
Yeah.
He
I'm
has
okay with
done
that.
some strange things. It would not surprise me if he hacked into someone's Zoom call. Granted, he doesn't have a phone and probably doesn't know how to use Zoom, but if he did, that would be pretty cool. But the reason I bring up Mr. Murray is because the movie of topic today is a film that Bill Murray stars in, a couple of them that we're going to be talking about in our summer camp mini-series. The movie of this week, in our third week of our summer camp mini-series, is the Wes Anderson film Moonrise Kingdom 2012. So that'll be our main topic for this episode. But before we get into that, we wanna let you guys know we're gonna add a little bit of new stuff to the episodes. We're missing the box office and we're missing the news. I miss doing that stuff. That stuff is a lot of fun. Right now there really isn't any besides there's no box office right now, and the news is literally every movie is just getting pushed back. And I'm like, Can we talk about, New Mutants every 2 weeks when it gets pushed back further? No. So until that happens, and even when that starts coming back in the box office in the news, we're going to keep these two new segments that we're going to be introducing. One of them is going to tie into our coming soon articles, which you can check out each and every Thursday on backlot605.com, written by our good friend Derek Vierink. Who's doing an excellent job with those articles. And if you're not reading those every week, please do so. He puts in a ton of work. It's so detailed. He does not miss anything that is coming out. And I noticed with him, even if it comes out like the night before something new happens or something new is announced to be released, he edits it right away and puts so much detail right back into it. So
he's all over that stuff.
Yeah, go check that out. But I think we want to introduce a little bit of a tie-in thing, something that'll tie into the coming soon article each and every week. And we want to talk about movies that are coming out this week that are new movies that we are excited to see. So there is a couple new releases to streaming, obviously. That's
what? They're not in the theater?
No, well, they might go to a drive-in theater, but not any theaters like they regularly would. I'm looking at this list of what we have new coming soon. And there's a couple that stick out to me. And one is because we've talked about it before on the podcast. And this one was originally supposed to be released in theaters. The Kumail Nanjiani led Lovebirds.
So went to Netflix.
Yes, this movie is going straight to Netflix. Written by or directed by Wet Hot American Summer star Michael Showalter, who we will talk about in 2 weeks when we cover Wet Hot American Summer. But the Lovebirds, I mean, I wasn't really planning on seeing this in theaters, but it's opening up on Netflix. I'm going to probably check it out the first weekend it's out.
Yeah, why not? You've already got Netflix. You're already paying for it.
Yeah. What about you guys? Are you guys excited for this movie at all?
Nope.
Okay. I do think it's a smart move for them. I know that obviously Kamal's been getting a lot of like lead role kind of stuff after The Big Sick and whatnot. But I didn't see this one really gaining a whole lot of love at the theater, and I think Netflix and streaming is probably a wise choice for them to go.
I wonder if this could have been held back for when his Marvel movie came out, or his Marvel show, or whatever he's doing.
If it would have done better after that had come out, is that what you're saying?
Maybe. I don't know.
I agree.
I also think, even though Stuber didn't make any money and got bad reviews, that people seem to know who he is based off of The Big Stick and some of his stand-up stuff. So I think it'll be fine. I think it'll do fine on Netflix, which is probably like a better home for it.
Yeah. I think
I agree.
I think it's going to get more eyes on Netflix than it would.
Yeah,
opening in the
100%.
theater.
Especially right now, obviously. Yeah. So,
and if it doesn't, Netflix will still say that they did.
Yeah. So
It'll
that is the
Netflix numbers.
That is The Lovebirds, starring Kumail Nanjiani and Issa Rae. So that is on Netflix this upcoming weekend. Did you guys have any other ones off this list that you're excited to watch for this upcoming weekend, or none?
No, I'm waiting for the new Spike Lee that got announced. That's coming out in like 3 weeks. So that's what I'm excited for.
Yes, that one I am intrigued by, definitely.
Yep.
One of the ones that has come out recently I still want to see is that Beastie Boys documentary that Spike Jonze did.
Yeah, it's supposed to be pretty good.
Mm-hmm. That's an Apple exclusive, right?
Yep, that's Apple TV.
Yeah. I should use my 1 year free Apple TV and just watch stuff on it finally.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
1 year free?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, you should be doing that.
The only other one that I have off this list is a new Shudder exclusive film, Blood Machines. This I literally just watched the trailer right before we started recording. This looks like a wild, fun ride. It's like a sci-fi action film, a low-budget sci-fi action horror film. Looks like a ton of fun. The score was fantastic for this little movie. There's not a whole lot about it that I know of it, but the trailer looked like a lot of fun and be something I would like to check out. So that's Blood Machines on Shudder.
Interesting.
Yeah, this sounds interesting. This looks really interesting.
Yeah, and like
is it only 50 minutes long?
I think so. It looks like a short film. What it said, like something. It was like a hypnotic opera or something. Is what it says in the trailer. I'm like that sounds cool.
Interesting.
Yeah. But another thing we want to introduce, and we'll try to do this every week as much as we can for what we have seen, is some recent new release watches. Some newer movies that have come out within the last couple weeks, and give our thoughts and reviews whether or not you guys should check them out. As we're recording this, we had just dropped our review for Scoob, written by Derek. Derek's doing some awesome stuff for us. He really enjoyed it, so I'm still excited to check that one out. Yeah. Where
can we find that one at?
That one is gone straight to VOD. You can purchase it for $25 or rent it for, I believe, is it 48 or it's either 48 or 72 hours for $20. So you might as well buy it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like if you're going to spend $20 to rent it for a couple days, just spend the extra $5 and just keep it.
Yeah. So if you're a do-head like me, go ahead and rent it or buy it for the $25. Trying to make the do-head a thing.
Yeah,
it's not a thing.
Was it yesterday that I just couldn't stop laughing at that?
Yes.
Or the other day, yeah.
Yeah, we talked about Scoob on the Killer Countdown, and I called us Scooby-Doo fans do-heads.
I'm all in on that.
Yeah.
I'm all in.
Let's get it trending on Twitter or something.
Yeah.
Do-heads. # do-heads. Yeah, did you guys watch anything new recently, or there hasn't been a whole lot, but
within the past stuff that's come out in the past 10 years I've watched.
Yeah, that's good for you.
Yeah.
It's pretty new for me. I've watched stuff that's new to me, but not a new movie.
Yeah.
I got a couple on here. One is Capone, which I did write a review for on the website.
Let's hear about it.
Capone. So I know we've talked about this previously. Did we talk about it on the podcast? I'm not sure, but either way, we've talked about it at some point. When I first heard about this movie, I was expecting a full-fledged gangster Capone movie written and directed by Josh Trank, starring Tom Hardy, because that just makes sense to me to have Tom Hardy as Al Capone. But what I didn't realize until like a week or so ago, this is about the last year of Al Capone's life, where he is slowly dying of syphilis, and his brain and body are just slowly deteriorating. He's losing all control of his bodily functions, and his mind as well. Tom Hardy is bonkers gonzo crazy in this movie. If you don't like Tom Hardy mumbling, you're going to hate this movie, because that is his entire performance. Which I loved. Blake would hate. This movie is nuts. Like, I gave it a 2.5 out of 5 because it's not a great film, but I think it is I don't want to say it's a must watch, but it's a must be seen to be believed.
Sure.
Because the scene, I tell everybody that is asked about it, there is a scene with Tom Hardy wearing an adult diaper and a robe, chomping on a carrot like a cigar, and carrying a gold-plated Tommy gun and shooting at his gardeners. So if that does not sell the movie, I don't know what will.
Why didn't we just put this in the trailer? Everybody would have watched this movie by now.
This sounds a lot like a movie he did in 2009 called Bronson. I would not surprise me at all if Josh Trank was like watched Bronson and then like basically said,
idea for a Capone movie.
I want to do a Capone movie in the style of Bronson.
Yeah.
Because that's what it sounds like. That's what it sounds like to me.
It's a wild movie.
And Bronson is a wild movie. So yeah, it'd be interesting to now I kind of want to see it and then compare it and see like if there's any influences from it. So
yeah,
I'm gonna do that. I think
I gave it a 2.5 out of 5, but I highly recommend the movie though too. If that makes any sense, I don't know if it does. I think
it sucks, but you should see it.
It sucks. No, it doesn't suck, but it was just I don't know if I'll watch. It's going to be on the rotation of rewatches.
Yeah,
it's a
movie. That's a big list for me too.
It's a movie that you want to be able to tell people, hey, watch this movie, experience it. You probably won't go back to it, but you'll definitely want to experience it.
Well, part of the reason I gave it a 2.5 is because if I don't want to say I recommend it to people, because people are going to hate this movie. But I highly recommend it to people who on the same token. I don't
Figure
know.
it out, Casey.
You just got to watch the movie. Again, it's a movie you got to see to believe. So that is available on VOD right now. Again, you can rent it for $10 or buy it for $10. I guess choice is yours. The other new one that I had just came out on Hulu actually. This is a Neon Pictures film, Spaceship Earth. So this is the closest thing. I just have to bring it up. If you have ever seen the movie Biodome, starring
Never
Pauly
heard
Shore,
of it.
it's a modern piece of American classic cinema. This is what the movie was riffing off. In the late 80s, early 90s, these group of weirdo scientists built this biodome and decided to live 2 years inside of this with no outside help, grow all their food, take care of the animals, deal with all your sicknesses and everything like that within 2 years. And it was a group of, it was like 7 or 8 of them. This was a boring documentary about science, but if you're into science documentaries and kind of like I don't know, it'd be a perfect movie to show your middle school or high school science class. And
maybe that's why they made it.
And I think that's why they made it.
It sounds like this movie could use a little dose of Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Yes, it could have used a little dose of Pauly Shore, if I'm going to be honest.
It's
Maybe
the
Pauly Shore and Bill
weasel.
Nye.
They want to interview the Weasel. They don't even mention Biodome, which I'm like, you probably don't have to, but it would have been nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I watched I had a teacher show me Biodome in like freshman science class. So you no longer need to do that. You just show them the actual documentary this time.
Imagine being a teacher and like having to resort to showing Biodome in your class. Like you worked for like 4 years to get this teaching degree, and then it's like, I guess we're just gonna watch Biodome and not learn anything.
Double bill with son-in-law, whatever. I don't care.
Depending on which science teacher I had, they would have done that just for the fact that they could do it, not because that they'd stoop that low. They just been like, you know what?
Yeah.
We watched October Sky in my like science class.
Yeah, we watched that quite a few times too.
I watched The Mask in biology.
Like Jim Carrey's The Mask?
Like Jim Carrey's The Mask.
Yeah.
That teacher gave up.
Yeah. They're like, I like Jim Carrey. I like The Mask. Whatever.
Yeah, that's definitely what happened.
But yeah, those were my two recent new release watches. So I would recommend both, but know what type of movie you're getting into for both.
Definitely.
All right.
Let's get on to today's main topic then, which is the 2012 summer camp comedy romance film, Moonrise Kingdom. So, Moonrise Kingdom, had you guys seen this movie before? I'm going to kick it off to Blake first.
Yeah, I saw it when it first came out, and then
in
I hadn't
theaters?
seen it. No.
Okay.
I guess video when 2013 or whenever it came out in video.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I saw it when it originally came out, and I had not seen it until I watched it Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I think I watched like 30 minutes Friday night, and then I watched the rest of it on Saturday. So that was my second time seeing it.
Brian, what about you?
First time seeing it was at about 9:00 last night.
Wow.
And
So it's fresh.
And it is fresh. And the first thing I think of, honestly, I do think that I need to go back and rewatch it. I just don't know if I consumed it well enough when I watched it the first time.
Yeah, I saw your Letterboxd score.
Oh, what did you give it?
Currently at this point right now, 3 stars.
Oh, I mean, I give it 3.5. So
yeah, so don't give me crap, Casey.
I mean, I'm at a 4, so
yeah, so I'm right in between. So, but I do think I probably have to go back and reconsume it and whatnot, because I haven't been through a Wes Anderson film in a long time, and you kind of have to be in a certain mindset for his film.
Yeah,
he's very art
stoned.
He's very eccentric. I think
and very specific about what he wants.
Video very like idiosyncratic with what he's doing with everything. Like everything is dialed in with the style and like the way actors deliver dialogue, the way actors move. Everything is so controlled and manipulated. And I agree. Like there was times this weekend watching, I was kind of like, this seems very I don't know. It didn't like I enjoyed it, but like it felt very deliberate. Like
yes.
And I don't mind when a filmmaker's deliberate, but when I can tell it's like a deliberate thing, then I'm starting to like check out and like watch the mechanics of a movie work, and I don't want to do that. So
the other thing. Oh yeah, go ahead.
All I was gonna say is like with Wes Anderson, that's kind of what you get. Like you either love all of that and you're like, okay, I know that's a Wes Anderson thing, or you hate it and you're like, that's a Wes Anderson thing. So it's like the two sides of the same coin.
Yes. The other thing I would get, being that this is the first time that I've watched this movie and diving into this movie, and I purposely didn't even look into say what is the movie about, all that. Just like I'm just gonna dive head in and whatnot. We came up with this idea of summer camp movies. For me, for what the definition of a summer camp movie is, this is not it.
Well, they're all at a summer camp.
But they're not. These are a bunch of Boy Scouts.
at a summer
You
camp.
no. Anyway, because I would put this up more against
Potato,
like other
potato.
movies
We're
that are,
talking summer camp movies. This is one that comes up, and they are technically at a summer camp.
They
Yes,
are
it
technically
is.
at a camp,
Yeah.
like multiple camps in this movie.
Yeah. This
But,
was
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the if you want to break it down to brass
Yeah.
tacks, it's probably not like a typical summer camp movie, but
which I am okay with, because otherwise I think we would go crazy because of how monotonous summer camp movies get.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to get much variation between Heavyweights and Ernest Goes to Camp, or
Meatballs
or Meatballs or Camp Nowhere. Like all of them is like, oh, a bunch of kids like want to have sex or make out, and then like gross
Play
stuff
pranks.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, you're not technically wrong, Brian, with your assessment, but you kind of are at the same time. So
It's not a tradition. It is a Wes Anderson summer camp.
Exactly. It's like
where Harvey
Inglourious.
Keitel is your camp
like,
counselor.
It's like Inglourious Bastards is what you get when Tarantino is a war film. It's like it's not your typical war film, but it lives in that arena.
all right.
But
I'll give you that comparison, even though I never thought I'd ever compare Tarantino to Wes Anderson.
yeah,
They're both great directors.
But I will say, just because you referenced it here, Casey, watching Harvey Keitel pop up in this, I was semi kind of floored by that.
Yeah, this
is like his first Wes Anderson movie, I think.
Speaking of first Wes Anderson movies, this is my first Wes Anderson movie.
Wait, you haven't seen any of the rest of them?
This is the only one I've seen. I've seen this one twice now.
Oh man!
I watched this in like 2014. Was the first time I watched it. Loved it. Watched it again here and prep for this episode. Again, still loved it. I don't know why I've never delved back into the rest of his filmography, especially back when I first watched it. When I was floored by it.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing is you should now just go back and start at the beginning with his movies and kind of like work your way through, because his first movie, Bottle Rocket, which is very good, sort of like has all of the Wes Anderson eccentricity. Yeah. But like he doesn't have the budget, so like, and then like Rushmore, he gets a little bit more money, and then like the Royal Tenenbaums gets a little bit more money, and like you can see like his universe expanding, and his like Brian's and his tropes sort of like coming full fledged. And I don't want to get into too much because it's not the movie we're talking about. But like Grand Budapest Hotel for me is like the apex of all of his magic that he's been working towards. But this one, and the reason why I really like Moonrise Kingdom a lot is because it seems like he took a lot of what makes Wes Anderson, and he kind of just scaled it back. And it's sort of like more of like the feeling or like the skin of his movies, and not necessarily let me reverse that. It's more of like the guts of his movies and not the skin. Like it doesn't have a lot of like the really cool aesthetic looking stuff that he does. Like here, it's more of like the feeling you get with his movies, as opposed to like Grand Budapest Hotel, which is like full on like Wes Anderson, has this massive budget and just goes all in on his aesthetics.
Well, I think inherently too, a summer camp movie is a low budget thing. And that's part of what shines through here, because there isn't a lot of locations, but what he does do with the locations is total Wes Anderson. Like the opening sequence alone inside the house is total Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
Where it's like him playing. It's like him playing in a dollhouse, pretty much.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Yeah.
So I'm gonna give the basic plot summary of this movie, and then we'll get into it. So it is set in the early 60s. These group of young lovers. That one of them is a Boy Scout at a summer camp, and the other is a girl who lives on the same lake that the camp is located on. They meet each other as she is performing in a play that he was at. They pretty much fall instantly in love with each other, and they decide to run away together to escape the boys. He wants to escape the camp that he's in and the Boy Scouts that he no longer wants to be a part of, and the girl wants to escape her parents, who are going through some marital problems and believe that she is a problem child. So they both try to escape, and the movie is about the search for these two kids, and they're also both their search for love in each other. So that's the basic plot of Moonrise Kingdom.
It should also be said that the young boy in the movie also is an orphan.
Yes.
And he is no longer wanted by his parents after he runs away.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's kind of sad.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that when they get to that part of it, you're just like, oh, he's not allowed back. What do you mean he's not allowed back?
Mm-hmm.
He's not welcome back. I was like, well, what a dick.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, what I love about this is, like, you know, Wes has got his big cast back. You know, he's got the people who's like, you know, this, I think this is Bruce Willis's first, or maybe even only role that he's done in a Wes Anderson movie. Edward Norton may be the same. I think this is his first one. I can't remember. Obviously, Bill Murray's in like every single Wes Anderson movie except Bottle Rocket.
Jason Schwartzman, who's in.
Jason Schwartzman shows up. Yep. Who became famous because of Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you know, one of my favorite actresses, Tilda Swinton, is just so great in this. But
so was Frances McDormand. She's really good in this.
Yeah, she's great. And then Bob Balaban as the narrator is he's always a great presence whenever he shows up in movies.
And again, one thing I referenced in our chat before we started recording was young Lucas Hedges in this movie. I had not realized he was in this movie, but
he plays kind of like an evil dude in this. He plays a bully, basically.
He's a jerk. He's a jerk.
Yeah, but he's good at it. He's really good at it.
He's good at it. Yeah. Again, but this is. I love the group of cast members that Wes Anderson brings into this. Bruce Willis. Yeah. Bruce Willis is really good in this movie, and I wish he would do more stuff like.
Yeah.
And you know, there's a scene with him and the boy that has run away, where basically Bruce Willis plays the captain of like the police force that is from this area. And he basically decides that he's going to help take in this child, at least until social services come.
Right.
And so there's a scene with him and the boy in his house. And just the way Bruce Willis can act with kids, like, I don't get why he doesn't do more of this, because he's great at acting with kids. Because you look at this and Sixth Sense and Unbreakable.
The kid.
Him with the kids is great.
Yeah.
Mercury Rising. It's probably because there's no budget there. He probably, you know, there's not a big enough paycheck. You know, everybody's got to be on Bruce Willis time.
Have you guys seen the straight to VOD stuff he's doing? He ain't worried about budget anymore.
Yeah.
Well, no, because most of the budget goes to his.
But again,
pocket.
I think part of it is he's working with great directors when he works with kids.
And
when he's good with kids.
Yeah, I think it's because Wes Anderson's given him good direction to sort of deliver like this. He's not quite deadpan, but it's more like a very, very subdued role, and that's sort of like a lot of Wes Anderson characters, where they're not like they're not deadpan, but they're delivering like these really like low key, subdued performances, like almost monotone, but it's for comedic reasons, and for some reason he's able to get these really like interesting roles out of people, and yeah, I've trashed Bruce Willis before. I think he sort of does like the same, right? But like he's really good in the movie.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is, like, out of all these stars we've mentioned, it's the two leads that are the best parts of the movie.
The two kids.
Mm-hmm.
The two kids,
they're fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, Jared Gilman and Cara Hayward are they're so good. There's some interesting stuff in this that I forgot about, where they're on a beach. They've run away. They got their little camp on their beach, and like they are sort of like exploring like sexuality for maybe the first time, and it's really weird to watch.
Yeah.
Two people you know are underage sort of engage in like things you wouldn't expect to see. Like in in the sequence, like she's like, "You could touch my chest," and he does, and it's like,
And it shows
whoa.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't want to get into like the specifics of what they did to protect the children during this whole thing, but it's not an exploitative thing at all. You know, like it's not like
their parents are literally standing right off screen.
Probably, and yeah. So like it felt like things were taken care of, you know. But like it's sort of like really interesting to watch these two people of a certain age sort of like engage in something, and possibly like that's maybe their first time in real life ever experiencing that. And so like it was really interesting to watch that because I've never seen a movie handle something like that like in that way before.
And again,
they did handle it very well, I do think.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's not exploitive at all.
Right.
It's very innocent. And
it's sort of lovely. It's like it's done very, like you said, very innocently, and you sort of like really grow to love them because of like this new thing that they're experiencing.
And there is an awkwardness to it, but I think there's also an awkwardness because of the characters are also awkward in that situation. They're going through something for the first time, as awkward as they can be in a Wes Anderson movie with the dialogue that they're saying. But yeah, there again, it is about childhood innocence, and if you kind of move away from being a childhood into adulthood, do you lose some of the things that make you so innocent and have these big dreams? Like both of them had these dreams of they just want to explore, but I'm like, again, as an adult looking at this, you're like, you can't do that. But again, through a child's eyes, that's right. That seems like the logical step. And again, for them just to run away is in a child's eyes makes sense to them.
I think there's a lot of interesting things going on in the movie. One is you could juxtapose this new burdening love with these two people who don't know any better versus like one of their parents, set of parents who are, you know, one of them is essentially having an affair. So like, you know, there's some cynicism involved where, you know, the kids have no idea really what comes with love, like the responsibility and all that. And you see it with her mom and having an affair with Bruce Willis and how like, well, what happened with that relationship? And then, also, I watched another movie recently where it kind of brought up like childhood strife and like what kids perceive as their big issues. And something I keep thinking about is like, to these two kids, like this is the most important thing in the world, and that should be like a valid thought. You know, like their love for each other should be a valid thing, whether it's, you know, responsible for them to run off. But like, I think what maybe the movie is sort of about is how adults don't consider issues with like that kids have as a real thing, when in fact, what kids have as real issues are the most important thing to them. And I don't think adults validate that sometimes. And I think maybe that's what Wes Anderson's trying to get at, is in some regard, not entirely, but.
Yeah, I think there is a couple of themes that he's working with in this movie, and that's probably the most overt one is childhood love, and then I don't want to say actual love, but like adult love and how you deal with relationships as an adult.
Right.
Yeah. Like the Bill Murray and Frances McDermott stuff is really fascinating to look at, because it feels like a marriage that is falling apart and about to crumble, but yet you feel that there is some sort of love still there, or at least there was at some point.
Yeah.
And again, it feels like when they were kids, they probably did the same thing that these two kids did, and now they're looking at it through adult eyes and don't see it, like you said, as a real problem, because what they're going through is a real problem to them.
Well, to them it is, because they're only seeing what's right in front of them, and they're not taking into consideration the feelings of their child.
I think the one like theme or character interaction and relationship that I really attach to is Bruce Willis with the young boy. I think that's the strongest relationship in this movie, even more so than the two kids to me.
Yeah,
because I feel very strongly with that, because there's a sense of that this kid needs a guiding leadership, because he's never had that. His parent, do they say what happened to his parents?
I believe I think they got killed in a car accident.
Yeah. and then he went to a boys' home,
Yeah.
and they just didn't care about. They didn't do anything about him, and now he's in the Boy Scouts, and again he gets picked on, and can't really find a relationship in that, and he's looking for it, and he finds it in this other girl. But then again, when Bruce Willis shows up, that's another figure in his life that he's never had before, and I think it's a very strong, important thing for a young boy to have that figure to look up to, and it feels like Bruce Willis's character is very much in the same boat.
Yeah,
where he's trying to find relationship or love in some way, shape, or form, and again, it doesn't feel like there is an actual bond or loving relationship between him and Frances McDermott's character. It feels like it's a fling that they were doing, and yeah, it just feels like his character really needs someone to latch onto, and having this young boy enter his life is it's a really strong thing for him to go through.
Yeah, I agree.
One of the things I do like about that whole dynamic is that, once Bruce Willis, his character, identifies the background for the boy, it turns into, not it being that's somebody else's problem, I need to move on. It's him going and saying, hey, you know what, this kid needs somebody in his life, and if he's not going to have it, that he wants to be the one to step up. And I think it really just shows, the amount of character that one should have if anybody were in that kind of position, to be able to say, hey, you know what, that's not an ideal situation for anybody. So I need to be the one to say, hey, I'm going to try to do something, at least anything I can be, to make this boy's life better.
Yeah, and one of the most interesting characters in this, alongside of that, is Edward Norton's character, who plays like their scout leader, camp counselor, whatever. But yeah, he is a very fascinating character to look at too, because it would seem like in any other movie, this would be the character that takes on the Bruce Willis role, where he takes the boy in. But again, I don't know. How do you guys feel about his character? Because I feel he doesn't really go through any arc like pretty much the other four main leads in this movie do.
Well, Edward Norton's character seems like that guy who cares a lot, but maybe isn't responsible.
Yeah.
Enough to do what he basically, it comes off as like someone who like is doing that to maybe show somebody else that he can do it, or he like maybe he wants to have that responsibility.
Yeah.
But he's not. There's something that happens, and I forget what it was, where Harvey Keitel's like, oh, you didn't do this. I think he has like a pin or a knife or something. He forgot his knife. And so like it just seems like Edward Norton's way over his head, even though he cares enough.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the mental capacity to be responsible enough for young children.
The way I saw it, and you allude to the exact scene where I think that dynamic changes, is that he sees himself as the leader, but he's just not quite there. Like he's not getting the respect from the other leaders. He's just
or even from the kids.
But he gets to the point where he's in front of Harvey Keitel's character, gets stripped of his leadership, but in that same scene basically goes and turns and realizes, I need to step up. I'm going to take ownership. I'm going to be a leader. Saves Harvey Keitel in the process, to kind of realize that I think that was that tipping point for him, where he's like, I know this is what I need to be.
Go ahead.
All I was gonna say was like this whole, and then if people are listening and like they think like this is a really sad movie, like it's not. It's like it's a very fun
movie.
It's a very fun, brisk movie with a lot of humor to it. There's a great sequence where Wes has like his hero protecting his girl from like Lucas Hedges in like the standoff in the forest. Like there's like they shoot arrows at each other, and they and there's all this like really fun stuff. And there's another sequence where Sam, the little lead actor, is being chased by like this entire troop, and he's running in circles, and they're all following him in circles. And then he gets struck by lightning, and he flies, like 50 feet. And there's a lot of really cool Wes Anderson stuff in this movie. So it's not like the downer that like maybe the Raw Tenenbaums is, or probably just that one.
Yeah, it is a first and foremost, it is a comedy.
Yeah.
As much as we're talking about the themes and character,
But it has
again,
a lot of heart.
Yeah, it does have a ton of heart, and I think this is what makes people look at Wes Anderson as one of the greatest comedy directors. I mean, probably of all time, but at least for sure in the last 20 years, because
Definitely the last
no one
20
else
years,
is
yeah.
doing what he's doing.
No, you can put on a movie and you'll know within 2 minutes whether it's a Wes Anderson movie or not.
Or even so much so, most comedies to this day don't have arcs and themes to it. It's just a straight up comedy. But I like that he introduces all this stuff. And the one thing, as we're talking about it, one thing that kind of came to mind relating to Edward Norton's character and Bill Murray's character. So as I think of this in my head a little bit, to me, this maybe seems like the young character, the young lead, Sam, seems maybe like two paths that he could go down, taken to the extreme. Like, again, if he follows Edward Norton, who also was shown with Harvey Keitel, he didn't have the leadership that this young boy also does not have, and that leads him down this path where he's leading these kids, but doesn't have that leadership backbone that he never developed and probably never had himself growing up. And that's why he's part of the Scouts, because of the family he never had. And then on the other side, Bill Murray was married and dating this woman, and I'm assuming it was probably a young love, fell in love, got married, had kids, moved to Lakeside, and that's where they live out their life. And he's miserable out of his mind. And that seems like two different paths that this young boy could go down. And I mean, and then Bruce Willis steps in, and I think that's kind of the path forward for him, because there's two deviating paths, and then the path forward for him is the Bruce Willis character. And I think that's a really interesting way to look at it, just kind of like a father figure, not father figure and mentorship. And especially I think that's why the Boy Scouts stuff is so prominent in this movie, because to many young boys, that is their mentor, their leader, is their
right.
And I think that's why he chose this type of setting for this movie.
And the sequence where Bruce Willis like shows him like, hey, I want to be your, I mean, quote unquote dad, I want to be there for you, is such a terrific sequence where
I love that rooftop scene.
Like the kid, I forget what I think they're just trying to run away. And Bruce Willis
they're
like is trying to help.
Jump.
Bruce Willis is like, hey, don't, and the kid's gonna do it, and he goes like, he shows him the paper like, hey, like I want to take care of you, and it's like, God, it's such a great sequence. Yeah.
Again, I love a lot of this movie. We got to talk about the narrator a little bit, because he is so much fun just having this little narrator in this. That is probably the most Wes Anderson thing in this movie, both in the way it's written and directed. I think that stuff's a ton of fun.
Yeah, I think he shows up in Grand Budapest Hotel as well. I'm not 100% sure.
Is he the same type of character in that too?
I don't believe so. But yeah, I liked it's such a really unique little quirky thing, and it sort of kind of breaks up what's happening too. I love this sequence where like the narrator is like it's explaining something, and then like in the background they're rowing right up to the shore. Like I love that. It's like he walks away and they just pull right up to the shore. Like there they are.
Brian, do you got any scenes that stuck out to you your first time watching it? That we haven't talked about yet, really.
I was gonna say one of the big ones that I thought was the Harvey Keitel scene. The other thing and it's just short and to the point, is like when you first get introduced to Ed Norton's character, and him just kind of going off on all these kids and and his little citations about taking away the motorcycle and whatnot, or like when they're building.
I love that sequence too.
They're building the treehouse, and he's like, "That's just too far up. Someone falls, they're gonna die."
Yeah,
it's such a great visual.
The kid's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Look how high it is." I love that motorcycle part where he's like, he says something like, "This is the second time now." I just,
Yep.
and the way he says it, and
Yep.
the way, and that whole sequence is such a Wes Anderson thing where the cameras are just like panning across the whole
gliding
thing,
along with them.
Yeah. It's such a great, like, it makes me wonder like what the preparation is for his actors, like if they just do that over and over and over again till it's just like a muscle reflex or what. But yeah, that's probably the most Wes Anderson-y thing in the movie.
He literally just sets them up in stations and lets Ed Norton go from one to the next to the next to the next.
Yeah, they're all doing something like so weird. Like there's one kid who's like has this whole contraption to like catch water or something, and like there's so many unique little like things involved that you're like, why would he set this whole thing up to do like this one little thing? But it's a Wes Anderson movie, and that's the way it is, But yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brian.
No, I was gonna say is when it comes to Wes Anderson, there's just certain things we've just learned just to stop asking questions.
Yeah, you have to. Like I said earlier, you either go into a Wes Anderson movie and you're like, oh my God, that's a Wes Anderson thing. Or you go into it and you're like, oh my God, that's a Wes Anderson thing. Like it's the same thing, just it can go either way. And I've had my things with this movies where I'm like, I can't do this. Like I cannot do this right now. And but I generally come back and I'm like, okay, I get it. I'm in a better mood now. I like it, So you're right, Brian. It's totally like a mood thing. You got to be in the mood for Wes Anderson.
Yeah, exactly. That's where it's like, and that's why I was like, I don't know when I'll get back to it, but it's like, I know I need to go back and rewatch it. And maybe, like you said, kind of get into that Wes Anderson groove and like, okay, so because there is a handful of ones that I have not, I've seen less Wes Anderson than I've seen of his. So, maybe it's one of those things where it's like, okay, let's just get into and watch a handful of them. That way I can be in that mindset because, walking into this, I mean, mind you, you had me going from, heavyweights to sleepaway camp to this. I don't think my brain was ready for this.
Yeah, we're just running the gambit of summer camp movies.
Yep.
I mean, we're gonna hit every like subgenre of it by the end of this, which it should be fun. One thing that one little moment that I love in this movie where it is probably the least the Wes Anderson thing because it is totally the most Bill Murray thing is the point where Bill Murray just takes off his shoe and chucks it at Edward Norton. Like that's not scripted. That's just Bill Murray in the moment throwing his shoe at Ed Norton.
Yeah.
Because it feels very much like
and
that was not scripted, and Edward Norton's reaction is probably
oh yeah, that's the kind of thing where it's just Bill's like, you know what, I'm gonna do this, and Wes is just gonna let it happen because he wants Bill to keep coming back. So I think Bill Murray in anything he does nowadays just almost has a little loot of he gets to do his impromptu stuff no matter what the other people say.
I'd be willing to bet. I'd be willing to bet that was like the 50th take.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, he's just like, I'm throwing my shoe. Like, this, I'm done. And
it feels to me like with Bill Murray and his dramatic stuff, he'll do it because as he's shown multiple times, he's a fantastic dramatic actor as well. But as long as he'll do that, but then he'll have one little thing where it's like, that's the Bill Murrayism that comes out. And the director, I'm sure is, if it works for the scene, they'll keep it in. And for this scene, worked perfect.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sort of fits with his character. I mean, his character is always sort of running around trying to figure out, what's going on with his daughter and his marriage and his family, and so it's sort of like not entirely out of context who he is. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do we have any other final thoughts on Moonrise Kingdom?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one of Wes's best, but for me it's sort of like the majority of his movies for me are like an 8 or a 9 out of 10, so it's sort of like how much do I love it more than others. But the reason why I love Moonrise Kingdom is if you are not a fan of the quirky like Wes Anderson little stuff where you're like, what the heck, why does this guy do this, like this is your movie because he he dials all of it back and sort of lets like the humor shine through while sort of like still having these little eccentricities shine through, but it's more, you know, controlled, subdued Wes, even though it's still very brisky and fun and heartwarming at the same time.
He has a very controlled burn with this movie.
Yeah, and it's not like a slow burn. It's just like it just sort of like goes along.
Yep, exactly.
It's just a constant campfire crackling.
Yeah, but like when you get into something like, you know, Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou or Grand Budapest, like that's full on like crack Wes Anderson into your veins. You know, like it's a full Wes Anderson-ish stuff. So yeah, I mean, this is a very good movie.
Yeah. Brian, what about you? What's your final thoughts on Moonrise?
I stand by my previous statement of saying that, you know, if this is the first time you're seeing it, then, you know, again, you have to be in a certain mindset. You have to be in the Wes Anderson mode to really appreciate it. Otherwise, you might not like the movie. Wes Anderson is definitely one of those people where it's like said, either you love or you hate. There's no in between for Wes Anderson. Now, of his movies specifically, there's going to be a little bit of love hate depending on, you know, some people like ones other versus the others, but either you like Wes Anderson or you don't. So I think if one's going to go into this movie, go in with a little bit of a grain of salt, saying, okay, this is not my typical comedy. It's not my typical drama. It's not my typical anything. Like, he is, as many as that there are other directors that have their tone, they have their way of doing certain things. Wes Anderson is definitely in a whole different caliber of what he does and the art that he produces out of his films.
Yeah. For me as a Wes Anderson newbie and having only seen this movie now twice, again, I loved it the first time I watched it, loved it just as much this time. Again, for me, as someone who is very new to this might be a good entry point because it doesn't seem like there's too many overt Wes Anderson isms in this. The camera does his fun things that he likes to do with it, especially like we talked about with the introduction to Edward Norton's character, which I loved. I love that scene. And again, with the opening is very Wes Anderson, and I would say even the ending. So there's kind of three big points in this movie that are very much shot like a Wes Anderson film. But again, what really stands out to me, I love the characters in this movie, and I love the relationships and how they interact with each other, because there's so many different bonds and relationships that are going on in this movie. And there's at least for anyone watching this, there's at least one character you're going to latch onto, no matter who it is, or multiple characters. There's someone that everybody can relate to in this movie, and then I think it's a very strong thing. And I don't know about other Wes Anderson movies if that's a typical thing for his, where characters are so vibrant like this and so stuck. They're stuck in the Wes Anderson world, but the things that they're going through and the themes that they're working on and character development is all very real world.
Yeah, I would say if you enjoyed a lot of the characters and stuff, themes from this, I mean, this is a pretty. That's pretty much normal for his other movies.
A good base for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So again, I highly recommend Moonrise Kingdom. It's been one of my favorites since I watched it, and it was behind the scenes. It was a contender for best of the decade. I would just.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I think I would have been very, very okay with that, but
yeah. But yeah, that was Moonrise Kingdom. So if you guys haven't seen it, go check it out. It is available on VOD to rent and purchase. That was Moonrise Kingdom. This was a lot of fun. I'm glad we got to talk about this movie.
I'll put it this way, Casey. Out of the three that I've seen so far, this is probably the one that I would rewatch first.
Well, it's the best out of the three that it'll be the best out of any of the movies that we watch for this. Heavyweights is the one I've seen the most, just because I grew up with that one. But I mean, I've watched Sleepaway Camp and Moonrise about the same now. So yeah, we're gonna continue with our summer camp mini series for the next 2 more weeks here coming up. Next week we will be talking about the Bill Murray 1980s summer camp film Meatballs. So we're gonna keep the Bill Murray summer camp movie train going. Meatballs. So I watched this movie right around when I watched Moonrise, not any relation to each other, just that I vividly remember where I was watching both of these, and it was in the same time frame. So yeah, I'm excited to revisit this one. I do not remember a whole lot about that one.
I don't remember a thing about this movie.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, so that'll be everybody's homework for the week, Meatballs. I know this one is available on Tubi TV right now for free, so if you want to watch it and listen along with us next week. And next week we will have 2 guests on the show. We will be joined by the podcast duo of Dakota Boys Talk Movies. So these guys are based out of Aberdeen, South Dakota. They like talking movies, so we're like, let's collab. Let's do a crossover. Let's do the Dakota Boys Talk Movies meet the Backlot 605 crew. So that'll be next week. And then
I can't wait to hear that.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to talk to those guys. And then 2 weeks from now, we will round off our summer camp mini series. And we are going to be talking about one of my just favorite comedies ever, Wet Hot American Summer. So I think it's the perfect way to round this mini series up. We will be joined by Derek Vierink on that and Charlie Eccles. So we're gonna have 2 guests on that one. So that one will be a ton of fun.
This will be the first one we have Charlie on that does not involve either Stallone or wrestling.
Yeah.
But
so
I'm pretty sure we'll still somehow get wrestling and or Stallone to be popped up.
Oh yeah,
he'll do it. He'll figure out a way to weave that in.
Eccles will bring up wrestling in some capacity.
Yes, we definitely will.
He will, because it's what he does. But out of that context, I think he'll still figure out another way.
Yeah, we'll find the link between Wet Hot American Summer and wrestling somehow.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But yeah, that's been our we're halfway through our summer camp mini series, and we're excited to continue with this. But yeah, let's go around the group. Everybody plug where they can find you guys and follow you guys online. Blake, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm on the gram.
As the kids call it.
As the kids call it. Blake G 5150. Yeah, I try to do like some really cool story stuff with Instagram. Not so much like, like new pictures or whatnot, but I try to do like the 24-hour story stuff with what I'm watching, and I'm gonna start trying to do like more questions and poll stuff and see if I can get more interaction with that and see if I can get better at that. But yeah, Blake G 5150.
And do you want to plug the Criterion Break with Andy and Blake?
Yeah. I guess I do have another show. This is not a one-time occurrence. I forget to do this on all of my shows. I host a twice a month show. I co-host. Sorry, Andy's gonna be really upset. I co-host a show with Andy from Fat Dude Digs Flicks called the Criterion Break, where Andy and I sort of like challenge each other to watch a new movie on the Criterion channel or within the physical collection, and just sort of like try to like challenge each other to watch something new and that we've never seen before, or maybe like ones we have seen before, but mostly just new stuff. And we just recorded one last week. It's going to come out tomorrow. We record Wednesday and it comes out next week. Sorry. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's sort of like it's a nice way to like keep me motivated to kind of like keep pushing my boundary a little bit, like to try something new. And I like, some people need personal trainers to do that. I need Andy.
Andy's your personal trainer.
Yeah, Andy's like, Andy's sort of my guy who's like, hey, watch this, and it's like, all right, I don't want to, but I guess I will because I have to. So it's kind of cool to have that responsibility and that person checking you to like, hey, let's go here. And it's been a lot of fun. Let's watch a lot of cool stuff so far.
Yeah, very cool. I've been enjoying listening to that as someone who is a very, very new newbie to these episodes or to the Criterion in general.
And speaking of noobs, our next show that we
Noobs.
are doing after next week's show is going to be like we're each going to pick 5 essential titles that we think people could like sort of slide into with the, like people who maybe feel like overwhelmed, like, oh, what should I watch? Like I don't want to get stuck with some art house movie that is boring and slow. So him and I are going to each pick 5 movies that we think like people might find really interesting that like is not too far outside their comfort zone.
Very cool. And today's movie is also in the Criterion Collection.
It is.
There's a link. There we go.
There you go.
Brian, where can the people follow you on the interwebs?
I'm sitting here going, how the hell am I supposed to follow that?
I'm sorry. I rambled. I rambled.
So as for me, yes, you can find me on the Instagram too. I haven't done anything special with my gram. So still under LP Freak. You can check me out on my letterbox. I'm a little behind on writing up what I think, but you can still see what I'm watching and at least the amount of stars that I'm giving it. That's letterbox LP Freak forever. And I'm like I said, behind on getting the reviews written and whatnot, but at least you can see what I'm watching and maybe pick up on something new. I've been doing a lot of rewatches lately. So, I mean, like one of the most ones I've done, and it's always just a fun movie to watch because it kind of, is very self-aware I just recently rewatched Last Action Hero just because it's fun.
You're damn right you did.
I found it on sale. I couldn't say no. I had to watch it immediately. So
I would have paid $20 for it. You're like, should I pay $5 for it? And I'm over here like, I would have paid $20 for that movie. That movie rules. Anyway.
So yes.
Very
So
cool.
Casey.
Yes, as someone who has not seen Last Action Hero, you can find me on the gram, Casey_the horror guy, reviewing every horror movie that I watch. I'm a couple behind on that, but yeah, that's what I've been doing on there. But you can listen every other week. Me and Blake host a spinoff of the Backlot main show. This is the Killer Countdown, where we rank the best that the horror genre has to offer. But we've added a new little wrinkle to the show as of late. So every other episode will include a news update episode instead of an actual countdown. So basically we will run through the last month of horror news and discuss it on the show along with our recent watches. And we just got done recording that, and that was a lot of fun. And then I'm doing prep for our next Killer Countdown, which I will be taking on Mr. Andy Heller of Fat Dude Digs Flicks, counting down the best foreign horror movies of the last 20 years.
Excuse me, the best international
foreign can be spoken in English because that is the rules that we have set up. Andy's going down. He's going down. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He might be the Criterion guy, but I'm the horror guy. So I'm gonna bring it. I'm gonna bring it.
I might go Team Andy on this one just because I want to see what happens.
I don't know. I the thing is I'm privy to information of who's going into this with what they're gonna love, and it could get messy.
It's gonna get dicey. And well, we have added an extra wrinkle that I think is gonna throw a nice little deviation in this. As we're doing these international horror films, we are only allowing one movie per country onto the top 8 list. So no 2 movies from South Korea or Japan or anywhere else will be allowed. It'll be 1 per country for the last 20 years. Woof. It'll be fun.
Ooh, good luck with that one.
Let the bloodbath begin.
Yes, this is what the Killer Countdown is all about. Very excited for that. But you can find the Killer Countdown and this podcast on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, and YouTube. And you can also check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, Backlot605. We're pretty easy to find. You can also follow the South Dakota Film Community Group. We've been having some very great conversations in that. So if you're not part of that group yet, please join the conversation there. That's been a ton of fun. And post something there. If you have a question you want everybody else in the group to try to answer or come up with their versions of whatever you ask, please do so. we love seeing new posts in that group. So that's been a ton of fun to see a lot of interaction on that lately. So I think that's all we got going on. And then I don't think we have anything else to plug. I think that was it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
I think you're right.
Very good. So again, Blake, thank you for joining us on this episode.
Anytime, I'll come back.
Brian, are we ready to eat some meatballs next week?
I'm gonna try. I haven't had meatballs for a while.
Yeah, we're gonna chow down. We're gonna eat some meatball. No, we're not. But we're gonna chow down on some meatballs and watch the Bill Murray summer camp cult classic. Sure. I don't know. I don't remember anything about it, but that'll be next week's episode. But until then, this has been the Backlot 605 podcast, and we'll check you out next time on the Backlot of South Dakota.